Located at the south of Singapore, Telok Blangah, Cooking Pot Bay in Malay, is derived from the shape of the bay, an outline of an Indian clay pot. The Temenggong were one of the first residents of Telok Blangah after being relocated by Sir Stamford Raffles. In the late 1830s, Dang Ibrahim monopolized trade. Wealthy Chinese and European merchants began to settle along the coast. Indians and Malays moved in as pot workers, tradesmen, and even businessmen. With the development of the harbour in the early 1850s, Telok Blangah waterfront became very valuable. Telok Blangah is rich in history. Behind Telok Blangah Road is Labrador Nature Reserve, which used to be called Fort Pasir Panjang. It was selected as a potential defensive site in 1878. It was one of the series of 11 coastal artillery forts built by the British in the 19th century to defend Singapore's waters. There were no armaments until the 1885 Defence Review. The following year, the battery was installed with 4 guns. With the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War, the British redeveloped and expanded Pasir Panjang Fort in the late 1930s. The guns facing the sea acted together with those from Fort Siloso. They assisted land force, mainly the 1st Malay Brigade, in their battle against the Japanese. When the British armed forces surrendered to the Japanese, the equipment at the fort was quickly removed under Churchill's instructions. The fort remained closed after the occupation.
There were earlier historical recordings of the place. Labrador was known for centuries by local Malays as Batu Berlayer or Sailing Rock as a famous place for pirates' hideout. In 1349, Wang Dayuan, the widely travelled historian, recorded 2 rock outcrops at the southernmost tip of Temasek. In his description, the strait runs between the 2 hills of Tanmasi natives, which look like dragon's teeth. From then on, the name Nong Ya Men was born. In 1405, the first Zheng He sailed by Temasek with over 300 ships and 28,000 men, using Long Ya Men as landmark during navigation. In 1819, the first resident of Singapore, William Farquhar, found a deep water harbour at the site. This became New Harbour and later Keppel Harbour. The British blew up Long Ya Men to widen the gateway of the channel to Keppel Harbour in mid-1848. Using historical records and the painting of Long Ya Men by J.T. Thompson, Long Ya Men was recreated near its original point next to Labrador Nature Reserve. Today, all the maritime trade and along the Straits of Singapore must still pass by the Dragon Thieves Gate. Located next to the Labrador Park is Keppel Bay. Since the 13th century, the waterway in Keppel Bay has been used as a passage for ships sailing from the Straits of Malacca to South China Sea. These include Chinese junks and Thai boats which brought goods like earthenware, paper, Chinese medicine, rice, and spices. Most of these commodities were then exported to different countries, and so began the island's entrepot trade. The port's activities were originally centered around the mouth of Singapore River. However, it was the deep and sheltered waters in the nearby Keppel Harbour that excited Sir Stamford Raffles to establish a new colony for Britain in the then sparsely populated village. It started off in 1859 with its first dock, number 1 dock, built at New Harbour. New Harbour is renamed Keppel Harbour after Admiral Sir Henry Keppel, who discovered the sheltered deep-water harbour. Keppel Shipyard is formed to take over the dockyard department of the Port of Singapore. 8 years later, Dock Number 2 was constructed, which is today one of the water channels purposefully incorporated into the architecture of Caribbean at Keppel Bay. Today, Keppel Bay is a far cry from what was in the past. It now houses the Tanjong Pagar Port. It's the world's busiest port and an important revenue earner for Singapore. It has put Singapore in the forefront of international ports and shipping.
In the heart of Telok Blangah is Mount Faber. It was originally known as the Telok Blangah Hill and was renamed in July 1845 in honor of British Captain Charles Edward Faber, the superintending engineer who led the team in charge of constructing a narrow winding route up to the summit of the hill. A flagstaff and signal station was built in 1851, with both infrastructures still existing today. In 1857, the Straits government converted the hill into a defensive outpost known as the Fort Faber in case of a revolt by the local Indian soldiers like those in India. Mount Faber was divided into two parts, with the extension of Henderson Road at Depot Road to Telok Blangah Road in the mid-1970s. One part remains at the Mount Faber we see today, while the another was renamed Telok Blangah Hill. Standing 106 meters tall, Mount Faber is the third highest hill after Bukit Timah Hill and Bukit Gombak. Offering a panoramic view of the city, Mount Faber is a popular tourist attraction. A stone's throw away from the Mount Faber stands the Alcove Mansion in Telok Blangah Green. The mansion was owned by the Alcove family, whose ancestors arrived in Singapore from Indonesia in 1852. They were great traders who have a lucrative business between India and Indonesia in spices, coffee and sugar, and were later involved in property business. Located on Bukit Jago, the Alcove Mansion was built by Syed Abdul Rahman Alcove, who came to Singapore from Yemen as a retreat for the family and to entertain their numerous clients and guests. The mansion was abandoned after World War II. It was in a state of disrepair until the Singapore Tourism Board became interested in it in 1986. The mansion was turned into a restaurant. The Alcove Mansion is a constant reminder to Singaporeans of the contribution of early Arab families toward the development and prosperity of Singapore.